Welcome back to TV Toastmasters. I'm Beth Genly, your host for this segment, and I have a treat for you this evening. We are here with my friend Tara Rolstad, who is a mental health advocate, a professional speaker, and an author. And she speaks from her own experience raising nieces who live with mental health challenges. Tara, I'm really glad you're here this evening.
Thanks, Beth.
Welcome. And how did you come to this work?
Nobody comes to this work intentionally, I think. We get pulled into it by something that's gone on in our life or our family's lives. And for my husband and I, that was being asked to be foster parents for some nieces that had come out of a really traumatic, abusive childhood. And that was about 9 years ago. And over the next several years, we helped them get better. We helped them recover. We learned from scratch because we knew nothing about mental health and the mental health world. We actually thought that we would just love them and give them a good environment and good opportunities and that would fix everything. That wasn't really the case. And so we learned about suicidality. All of our girls struggled with post-traumatic stress disorder, so we learned about PTSD and trauma. And since then, I have just come to really understand how critical it is for families going through that experience to be supported and to be surrounded by people who aren't afraid to reach out and help them.
It sounds like a roller coaster life for a long time.
It absolutely was. And I think that it's true for most people who go through this. We, at the time, had 3 little boys, and so I was trying to parent, and sometimes I was trying to work. I was trying to prevent my house from falling down around me. And meanwhile, I had these girls who sometimes really wanted nothing more than to end their life because they were in so much pain. They were hurting so much inside. And what that meant for me as a family member was constant fear. And I think that fear shapes so much of how we all respond to situations of mental health challenges. I think if it's your family member, you're afraid for them, you're afraid that they're not going to be okay, you're afraid of how their future is going to be shaped. If it's a friend of yours or somebody that you know at work, you're afraid you're going to say the wrong thing, you're afraid you don't know what to do to help, that you're going to make it worse. And so in that situation, the choice we make most often is nothing, right? And I work a lot in faith communities. I work a lot within churches and other communities of faith, and they have their own issues. They have their own kind of twist on how you deal with mental health and what it means and where it came from and what it causes. And so for that community, it's about learning to have open conversations that are really healthy and making sure that we're not making any kind of statements or judgments that would make it harder for people to get better or to get help.
I was struck by so much of what you said. I want to unpack it a little bit, starting with you mentioned families, you mentioned coworkers, you mentioned friends, even people on the street we run into sometimes seem to be having mental health challenges. And it's not all of our stories are quite so dramatic, but I know my own family has had challenges. I know many other people who have had family members or who themselves have challenges with mental illness. So how can we choose to do something? What can we choose to do?
Right.
Thank you.
So the first thing that's really important is to realize how completely common it is to the human experience. 1 adult in 5 in any given year is going to struggle with a mental health issue. 1 in 5. And over our lifetimes, it's going to be 1 in 4 of us. So sometimes it's really feels safe to think, oh, the homeless, those people on the streets, those are the people who struggle with mental health issues. But it really is a very common experience. And so if it's not somebody in your family, it's one of your friends and their family. It is somebody that you work with. So I would say the first step to choosing to do something instead of choosing to be afraid is to be a good friend. That sounds so simple, but oftentimes one of the most healing things for a family or an individual that's experiencing a mental health crisis is community. and it's relationship. And so we all know how to be a good friend, I would hope, right? And
So many of us, I'm sorry to interrupt, but so many of us worry that if we bring it up, that we will somehow make it worse. So how specifically do you be a good friend when the challenges are in the mental health arena?
Don't be afraid to bring it up, first of all. Whether it's depression or anxiety, or it's something really scary like suicide or hearing voices, it's okay to talk about it. Even with suicide, you're not going to make a person who's already feeling suicidal more suicidal by bringing it up. You're going to make them feel validated. You're going to make them feel seen and heard. And that is so core to every human experience, and particularly to mental health. So if it's a friend who has really serious depression, you don't have to talk about it every time you talk to them. You could ask every once in a while, how are things going? How are you feeling? Open-ended questions like that can really be helpful. You can also just make sure that you're asking them to do things. You know, hey, do you want to meet for coffee? Do you want to go for a walk? If you know that they're really, really struggling, don't be afraid to say, can I bring over spaghetti tomorrow? I promise you that there were times when I had nieces in the psych unit and little boys at home and everything was just swirling and chaotic. Lasagna was one of the most healing things that I experienced walking in the door of my house in the hands of a good friend. So simple things like that we would do for a friend who just had surgery. We all know how to do that, right? We sign up on the meal train, or we get out the casserole dishes. Those things can be really helpful. Bring over some magazines. People magazine. It's, you know, it's really fun time to spend just kind of relaxing. Anything like that can be helpful, but don't be afraid to talk about it.
Awesome. So can people get better? That's such
Thank
a worry.
you for asking that question. Absolutely, people can get better. We used to accept mental health diagnoses and say, okay, that's it. But that's not the truth. People can recover from mental health issues. They absolutely can. Will life be exactly like you planned it? Maybe not.
Oh, dang, will life be exactly as I planned
Is
it?
that true for you or me? No. But you can get better, and the first step to that is reaching out and getting some help. So sometimes, if you've got a friend or a family member that's really struggling, one of the best things you can do is say, can I help you make some phone calls? I mean, who wants to go through the darn provider list from their insurance company and try to find somebody who's taking, you know, whether it's a dermatologist or a cardiologist? That's a giant pain, right? And if you're already depressed or you're feeling anxious, something like that, somebody stepping in and saying, can I help make some phone calls for you? What a gift. So don't ever think people can't get better. They may not get all the way better. Life may look different, but meaningful recovery is absolutely possible.
I just want to kind of relax into that. That is a beautiful
good
thing.
news,
Yeah,
right?
it's really good news.
It's good news.
Yeah, that's wonderful
And
to
I
hear.
want to say that's not just for depression and anxiety. That's true for people with schizophrenia. That's true for people with bipolar disorder. Meaningful recovery is possible, and we don't talk about that nearly enough.
So in the long haul, what do people need that are experiencing a mental health crisis?
Okay,
need?
first of all, let's recognize it is the long haul, because I just said recovery is possible, but at the same time, most people who struggle with mental health challenges are going to struggle with them for a long time. So don't get impatient that your friend is depressed again. Don't be surprised that they're having a hard time keeping social commitments again. Remember, this is the long haul. This is something that is going to be ongoing. And so in the same way that you're patient with that, be willing to continue to show up for them. In whatever way works for you, in whatever way feels comfortable for you, know that it is the long haul. I think that's the first step, right? And then I would also say, don't make it all about their mental health. Talk about hobbies. Invest in some time finding the best pizza places in town, or whatever is key to your friendship or your relationship with that person, that's what it needs to be about as much as possible.
That's beautiful. I really love this model of learning to be a really effective friend and a really helpful friend. That's beautiful stuff. I bet that our audience has a lot of questions and would like to learn more. How do they do that?
They can find my website, tararolstad.com, and there's information there on how to contact me, and I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to help people find resources or point them in the right direction. They just reach out. Help is available.
That is a beautiful thing. Thank you so much for joining us this evening,
Absolutely.
Tara. Just
Thanks,
so excited to bring this information to everyone. So thank you for joining us once again with TV Toastmasters. I hope you will come back. I hope, Tara, that you will come back. And good evening.
Hello, welcome to TV Toastmasters, where the spotlight is on you. We are a unique Toastmasters club. Our members have opportunities to learn on-camera skills like addressing a camera versus a live audience, using a teleprompter, interviewing, and hosting a show. We also learn production skills in the control room, like producing, audio control, running the cameras, working with sets, and sometimes the most challenging task, managing the talent. If this sounds fun and exciting to you, please check out our web address. Come visit our website and consider joining TV Toastmasters.
Hi, I'm Susan Bender Phelps, and today our guest is Joan Lubar, the sassy sage and author of Rock and Roll at Any Age. At 74 years young, Joan has spent the last 3 decades as a rebel to the normal notion of what aging should look like and feel like. She's living a lifestyle of health and fitness and has been pure joy to share her story in her book. Now, Joan, in your book, you tell about this journey to health. You were 40 years old. What was that aha moment that set your foot on this healthful journey to have really, it seems like, perpetual youth?
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Actually, the real trigger for me came after I had had some surgery and I was tired and falling asleep at work, gaining weight, and I just couldn't figure out what was going on. So I'd gone to the doctor and I thought he would give me some answers. The doctor told me there was nothing I could do, that I was over 40 and, hey, this is the way it's going to be. You're going to be more tired. You're going to gain more weight. And I'm thinking, I didn't really say this to him, but I'm thinking, are you kidding me? So I was really upset with him. I mean, there were fumes coming out of my ears when I left. But what that did was trigger me to take responsibility for my own health. And taking responsibility for my own health led me on a path of discovery.
So if you were to tell someone now, you can do it too, what would be the first 3 things they should consider doing as their first steps down this path?
Well, I think step number 1 is really to get healthy. Because if you don't have the energy and you're not feeling that good, it's really hard to promote yourself into doing anything else. So that was number 1. And that really was my journey. It was the first thing that happened to me, was starting on some nutritional products that a friend had introduced me to her neighbor, and she gave them to me. And it was
How lucky.
Yes. Well, I mean, I paid for them. But the idea was, if they didn't work, I'd get my money back. And obviously, 30-some years later, it still works.
Wow.
But the key was, once I felt better, then I could do more. And, you know, your attitude is everything. So that's like step number 2, was to really get my attitude back and feel good about myself and start making changes and understanding who I was better. And that involved both reading about ways to let's see, ways to look at yourself and not feel that you hadn't accomplished anything, that you weren't good enough, all the things that somehow over the years as a child we gather some of this misinformation. And part of that was also my own personal spiritual growth and starting to work with a couple of teachers that really reminded me I was much more than this physical body, and that I really had a purpose for being here, and to really understand who that spiritual part of me was. So that was number 2. And number 3 was movement. I'd always loved dancing, and my next door neighbor invited me to go country western dancing. Now you have to understand, that was my worst music. I hated country western music. I mean, I just had this knee-slapping idea of what it was. Finally, after about 4 months, I went with her and found out it was more like rock and roll, and I grew up with rock and roll. So learned how to dance, and it became so much more than just doing something I enjoyed. It was doing something I enjoyed that was also giving me lots of good health. I was moving, I was really feeling better, my whole body was just changing because I could easily lose weight. I could move and feel strong, and it was a stress reliever. So I was putting my attitude also into my dance. So if you eat right, use some good supplements, if you work on your attitude, and if you move and do something that you are passionate about, you've got all 3 major things covered.
Wow. It sounds simple, but I'm guessing that it's not so easy in the day-to-day living. So what were the things that kept you going when the going got tough?
I think a lot of the work I did spiritually and reminding myself that I've been led, I'm continuing to be led, I am being led today, and I will always be led. That philosophy helped me step back when things got very tough, and they did get very tough at times. I was married to someone who we got married, we moved, and the job we moved for fell through. And he was devastated. And it was like take a step and pull him along because he was just in such terrible shape. And I had to keep my attitude up. So I really worked very hard on that. And there were some nutritional supplements I took also that neutralized that. But I would say that was one of the key things I had to work on, was how I felt about myself and moving myself forward. Now, today, I have a really fun technique that I just learned that's so cool. When some things are going bad, and you've gotten yourself to recreate a good attitude, you know that your mind is going to immediately kick in and tell you, oh no, you can't do that. That doesn't work. So the trick is, before your mind kicks in, you make your decision where you're going to move forward, how you're going to move forward, and you've got your plan, you know what you're going to do, and immediately say, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. And it stops the brain trash from coming in.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. I like that. What was the greatest challenge that you faced in shifting to a healthy lifestyle?
Well, I love to eat. And I love chocolate. And I'm an emotional snacker. So I really had to get all those foods out of the house and create new habits. And creating new habits takes a little time, and even when you've created them, you go through some times that you're just not following what you know you're supposed to do. So the key is to not be upset with yourself, but say, okay, you've done it, it's done, we're starting again tomorrow. And it really helped.
I can see that. If you are on this healthy lifestyle path, but you're not there yet, So maybe you're still overweight, you still don't feel so good about yourself. What are the things that, in addition to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go, and just telling yourself, okay, tomorrow we start over. When you wake up in the morning and you go, oh, I can't do this again, how do you get that going?
I think that you need something that inspires you, or someone that inspires you, like a support group, friends, someone in your business that you always enjoy being with, and that you can call and you can talk to them and you can say, oh, this has been such a lousy day. I just need a little pick-me-up. Can you help? That's one thing. And I have a really, really close friend in California that we talk on the phone and we boost each other up, which is really nice.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I think that if you have a vision of where you want to be, who you want to be, where you want to go, and you go back to that and remind yourself about where you're going and why it's so important to go there, that really helps move you from this, oh God, I can't do it another day, to moving forward and going back to where you want to be. The other thing about that, though, is you really have to, number one, start with some awareness of where you're at. If you don't know where you're at, you don't know where you're going to go. So, in fact, in my book, I have a chapter on where are you now, so that you can start to take a look at where you are and then make a decision. I mean, you don't have to make a decision, but if you can make that decision to make a change and really commit to it, then you're ready for the next step, which is, okay, I'm going to make my plan, and I'm going to actually implement the plan.
Wow,
And then you
that's
can always go
extraordinary.
back.
That's extraordinary. Well, thank you so much, Joan. This has been really interesting, and if you want to learn more, Rock and Roll at Any Age by Joan Lubar is a great place to see exactly what Joan did to produce the results in her life that, well, I actually know Joan, and she is a firecracker. So thank you so much, Joan.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was
Our
great.
pleasure.
I joined Toastmasters to improve my speaking, listening, communication, and leadership skills.
Toastmasters gave me
incredible confidence,
confidence,
great listening skills,
poise,
great leadership skills,
leadership skills,
the ability to speak in public,
strength, a captive audience,
quality feedback from the more experienced Toastmasters.
Toastmasters really helped me improve my listening skills.
sales skills,
opportunities to go to different groups and widen my whole horizon.
Toastmasters has given me a more focused me, and I'm a much better listener. Toastmasters is fulfilling.
It's a great place to fail your way to success.
wonderful way to meet people.
networking,
Strength.
It's addictive.
It's a club of self-improvement.
It's an experience, it's a ride that you won't forget, and you'll enjoy it every step of the way.
Toastmasters helped me land a kick-butt job. I sang at one of my table topic speeches, and people liked it and applauded.
My business is doing great, and I'm very, very grateful to Toastmasters.
It's been a great experience for me.
Thank you, Toastmasters.
Thank you, Toastmasters.
Thank you, Toastmasters, for giving me so much confidence.
thank you Toastmasters for everything.